Hello everyone, welcome to Digital Marketing Gyan, the podcast where we keep on sharing some of the informative tools, techniques, case studies, and latest updates in digital marketing domain. I'm your host Prince Kumar, and our guest for today is Gabby. Gabby is the founder of the Adulting Manual, a platform where 20 somethings can learn the life lessons they weren't taught in the school. She is also the host of Corporate Quitter, a podcast where entrepreneurs and side hustlers share their stories and provide listeners with actionable steps to help them achieve their own goals. And today, we will try to understand how one can improve their social media engagement organically. Hi, Gabby. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Prince. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Gabby, we have briefed a bit about yourself, but then can you just elaborate your corporate journey so far?
Of course. So I, like most people, don't have the typical journey of staying in the same place, all the time. I originally went to school for teaching. I got a dual degree in general and special education and realized after graduating that it wasn't for me. So I picked up and went to Manhattan, New York City, to basically pursue, whatever it is I was called to. And I ended up leaving, basically going into corporate. So I worked in real estate as an agent. I worked as a nanny. I worked as working in event planning, tech, asset management, marketing, you name it, I've probably done it. And, at this point, because of the pandemic and everything that had happened, I realized very quickly that my job hopping, though part of the reason for doing it was to make more money in my salary quicker than just staying at the same place and getting like a 3% raise every year. But the other part was I thought, okay, maybe I just haven't found the right job yet. And so I was looking aggressively from company to company, industry to industry. And what I realized after 5 or 6 years of doing that was that it wasn't a company problem, it was a me problem, right? I wasn't set to be in the 9-to-5 workplace. I wanted something alternative. And that's when I kind of bit the bullet and quit February of 2021, so only 6 months ago. And now at this point, I am now doing my podcast, running with the Adulting Manual, which I've kind of switched gears with that, but rolling with the punches and kind of building out a business is where I'm at right now.
Perfect. So, during this your journey of managing the social media platforms, so since you might be working with a good amount of client on different campaigns, so what all social media platform do you generally work for them?
So it really depends on what their ideal client or where their prospect is at. Because, for example, we all know that TikTok is like the latest and greatest thing and people are obsessed with it. And it ends up that, a myriad of people in different age brackets are on it, but most younger generations, right, Gen Z are on it. So if your target demographic is Gen Z, it would make sense that you would be on that platform. Whereas if maybe you're targeting parents who are of a certain age, maybe they would be hanging out on Facebook. So you really need to do your due diligence and find out where the people you want to sell to, talk to, engage with, build community with, wherever they're present, you want to be on that. And you want to make it, tunnel vision, right? I think the biggest thing with a lot of people is, right, we have so many social platforms, right? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. There's probably more coming as well. And ones that I didn't even touch on, Pinterest, LinkedIn. And it's really easy for a young, entrepreneur or someone who's new in business to get super overwhelmed with the idea of, oh my God, I have to post and be on every single platform. And that's just not the case. You just need to focus on one specific thing, find out where your people are, and just really work that. You can always post or repurpose down the line on the other platforms, but if you get overwhelmed in the beginning, it's very, very likely, 9 times out of 10, you'll lack consistency and you'll also lack focus because you're being pulled in so many different directions. So I always say, find where your people are going, hone in on that, work it till you die, basically, keep working it. And then eventually when you build up momentum or have a team or kind of have flow in place, you can then branch out to other places.
Very rightly said. So you have given idea of we have TikTok and we have Instagram. So similarly, we have the major platform that we go is Facebook. Then we have LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and let's say go with TikTok. So, according to you, what are the different type of audiences that are present on these social platforms? Or, in other words, or what platforms are good for which type of business?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said before, it really depends on where your people are hanging out, but also it depends on who you are as a person. So, for example, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I was told I should be blogging and should be reposting content on Pinterest, right, creating pins. But I found out very, very quickly that I myself personally, my selling point, my edge is my personality and me like being crazy on the internet and like throwing F-bombs, right, cursing, all that stuff. But no one would be able to really get me and connect with me and me understand them through a blog and through doing pins on Pinterest. So that's when I turned to TikTok and just started openly speaking. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for some people, because some people, like for example, if you were someone in the food industry and you're, maybe you have a cookbook or like you're doing recipes online, it very well makes sense that you're using Pinterest because that's where your audience is, right? Me as a consumer, when I look for recipes, I go on Pinterest and search to see, okay, what ingredients do I need? Where can I find it? All that stuff. And then it leads me to the right website. And so the same thing goes for all these other platforms. Like LinkedIn is predominantly for business. So maybe if you have a really, really great network from working at your 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and you build up great connections on LinkedIn and your stuff is business focused and all of that, you can definitely leverage LinkedIn. It really depends on A, what your goal is, B, what your edge is, and C, again, where your people are hanging out. So for me in the beginning, like I said, I did a lot of experimentation, realized very quickly I didn't like the way that things were going with the blogging and Pinterest type of, angle. So I pivoted and I went to Instagram, and I'm still doing Instagram and I love Instagram, but all my traction, all of my followings that like I've gone viral in the past week and things have been blowing up, which is amazing, on TikTok of all places. I wouldn't think to go on TikTok. But again, if I hadn't experimented across posting on Facebook, posting on LinkedIn, posting all these other places, I wouldn't know what works and where to find people. Does that make sense?
Definitely. So you have given a clear idea about the platforms and the type of content that have worked for you. Definitely, it might not work for many. So they have to kind of do on the experimentation and then check that which platform is working well for them.
Yeah. So at least give yourself 30 days to really, really commit to one platform. See if it works. Experiment. Really put yourself out there. Like, I've been doing reels and it makes me really scared to put myself in a vulnerable position like that, but people love that. And so because of that, I'm continually doing it more. But had I not been, right, as an entrepreneur or someone in business, you are experimenting all day long. You're like a scientist. You come up with a hypothesis, you put the plan in place, you experiment, and then after the experimentation, you analyze it to see what works and what doesn't. So the same thing goes for these social platforms. Give it enough time to see if there's a budge in the anything moves, right? Move the needle. If not, okay, this didn't work. Let me take this and repurpose it somewhere else or try something new and then go from there.
Definitely. So you have given a clear idea about selecting the platforms, and that is generally based on the response that you are getting. So most of the audience generally have a common doubt that if we say that we are getting result, or in a common or in the marketing word we say it's about the game is all about the engagement. So what can be the different criteria that you can consider that a post is having a good engagement, and so that can determine that whether they should be sticking to that platform or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things that I want to talk on that. But number one is you always want to come about you creating content from the perspective of your ideal prospect. So what are their pain points and what types of questions are they actively searching in Google, across social media? Like, what are they looking for, right? So if someone maybe wants to lose weight, maybe they're looking up they're not looking how to be healthy. Maybe that's a byproduct. They're looking how to lose weight, right? So you're going to look for terms that, maybe might be like, lose weight, like look sexy for the summer, like all these really great keywords that say like, ooh, I want that that hits an emotional nerve. So I'm going to make sure my post, my content, whatever it is that I do, uses the same language that makes sense for my audience. So once you got that covered, the part that really helps for me when I make content is, how you basically want to make sure that you are gripping them in the way of, again, the words, but also like doing a lot of call to actions and stuff like that. I look at a lot of posts and it seems like people who are struggling, they're just posting just to post. And that's not the jam. It's not about quality. I mean, okay, there's an algorithm, right? But at the same time, you could post every single day for 5 days and no one responds because like you're trying to appease the algorithm versus actually helping people. The whole game is you want to come from a place of value. Don't be afraid to overshare. Don't be afraid to provide more value and feel like, you know, I think sometimes there's some gatekeeping where we're almost afraid to share our gold nuggets or our secrets to success because we're afraid that we're going to give away everything. But that is the key to making people want to be with you, want to work with you, become your super fans and engage with you. So providing value and making it a way that's tangible and that has call to action. So like, for example, if you posted, you know, like, I don't know, anything like how to sell more through your content, but you don't have an arrow on that picture, how would I know that that's a carousel for me to flip through and find out more information, right? What if you put on there, instead of how to sell more through your content, you just put like, you know, the 5 things you need to know about content. Like they're very different titles and they hit very different points. So making sure that you're, you know, 100%, you're very straightforward, you're providing value and it's actually helpful will not only make super fans and help people engage more, but you're basically providing value up front so that the investment comes later on through a sale.
Very rightly said. We should not be focusing more on the promotional content, but then trying to give more information or trying to help our customers in whatever products or whatever challenges that they are facing upon. Because once we go on helping them out, then definitely the trust for our brand will automatically be built at the background.
Yeah. So, you know, just posting quotes all the time, like it's really great and it's motivational, but at the same time, you know, there's so much more that you can provide your audience. Share some of your gold nuggets, share some of the, you know, like the things that you feel like you need to hold near and dear to yourself and see what happens. Experiment, right?
Definitely.
You know, don't worry about, you know, the money coming. It will always come. Just come from a place of people over profit and the engagement will come. But I do also want to expand on engagement because I think it's not only just having good content and posting and things like that. It's actually being a good person, engaging good yourself. Like, okay, the key to all of this is that you want to act in the way that your ideal prospect, like how you want them to act. So if you want them to engage in a way that's really stimulating, you want them to ask really great questions, you want them to respond to your posts with like thorough, thought out paragraphs instead of like mass spam commenting or just putting emojis, which really doesn't build a relationship or anything like that. You want to start acting like that person. So go to people that you find interesting, that you want to connect with, people that might be your ideal prospects, and start engaging with their content. Hey, how, you know, like address them by their name, like go through the process of actually clicking their bio and seeing what their name is. Hey Sam, I just want to say I really love this content. Thank you so much for posting it. It really, really helped me. I'm really eager to include this in my, you know, my marketing strategy going forward. Or like, hey Molly, I noticed you have a golden retriever, so do I. Like, what are some great products you recommend? Again, it doesn't even have to do with your business, but again, building those relationships are so important. And if you're not seeing your customers engage in a way that makes sense, you want to take a hard look at yourself and see what you're doing wrong as a consumer yourself.
Definitely. So you have highlighted about the audience, means understanding the audience. One step previous to it, when anyone is going or when anyone is planning for creating their social media account, they generally miss upon creating or understanding their audience persona. And if they have kind of audience that does not relate to the product, then definitely the engagement and all the efforts will not give us good result. So do you think one should focus on audience persona while building their social media followers?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it's a great thing that everyone needs to do. But at the same time, I think those things will kind of flesh out over time. Like my ideal prospect in the beginning was going to be parents. Like because I had the adulting manual and I was 100% running with that at full throttle, right? Parents who maybe would give it to their younger kids, teens, or maybe like people in their really, really early 20s. And so that was my original audience. And then it started to really shift to be more of someone who actually looked like me. So someone who's in their between the ages of 27 and 34, live in this area, do this thing. And so what I'm finding more and more with people is that 9 times out of 10, their ideal prospect or ideal client actually in some shape or form is what you are, how you consume, what pain points you're experiencing. You're just the one trying to solve the problem. And so with that being said too, I have found that, again, just getting started and kind of figuring it out as you go along and seeing how people respond is the best way, right? Taking that data, analyzing it, and then tweaking and pivoting as you need to. But also, a great tip for people is I actually went on Pinterest and I created a vision board or I should just say a board in general called Ideal Prospect. It's not for public use, no one can see it, but basically it's just a culmination of images of everything that my ideal prospect would want. What they look like, the type of mentality they have, the quotes they live by, the things that excite them, the locations they like, the things that they're dreaming and hoping and praying for, so that I can know my client from the inside to the outside, from the present to the past to the future, right? I want to know them in every shape or form. And so me doing that and looking at it from time to time reminds me of, why am I creating this content? Who is benefiting from it? What do they want to get out of it? Because at the end of the day, every single thing you do is for the people you're providing value for. It has nothing to do with you. You're just the person delivering it.
So you have given us a lot clarity about understanding the audience and then the engagement. Now, we have different social media platforms. The generally which we can go with it, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or whichever you have tried with. Can you share different type of strategy that have worked or that generally works on these platforms, and one can try with that to have an improved engagement? Means if they want to increase their engagement organically, then what can be the different ways they can use these all social platforms for their purpose?
Yeah, of course. So like I said before, I know I'm like a broken record, but experimentation is really key with this. But some of the things that I've found in my own personal journey with this is that TikTok, if you're going to use TikTok, is very much about the no filter, the just basically the unabashedly version of yourself. So people being who they are, expressing themselves fully, kind of doing like a real talk type of video, whether it's in a 30-second form or 3-minute form, and just kind of explaining who they are, what they're doing, how they feel, and expressing themselves fully. Whereas Instagram is a lot more like pretty and put together, and there's a lot more like algorithm involved. I know you've probably seen this, but people will literally go viral overnight on TikTok, regardless of how many followers they have, what their content is, or any of that good stuff. So the benefit is that on TikTok, you really get free reign, whereas Instagram, it's a little more premeditative. You need to really think through what you're posting. And I know people care about like what their grid looks like and like, all these different components, right? Some people say, oh, you have to post multiple times a day, and then you got to do reels, then you got to do stories and like all this stuff. And, that's a great strategy, but it doesn't always work. It depends on the person. So, and I will also say too, if I compare my two different strategies between TikTok and Instagram, on TikTok, what made me go viral was me, just explaining my journey about quitting corporate. I was cursing. I didn't have makeup on, was just kind of like being me fully expressed. And that did really, really well on there. But when I reposted it on Instagram, it didn't really do well. And it's not because it's not good content. It's just not the platform for it. So for what I've found on Instagram, people like when things, again, are pretty. Maybe there's some sort of color scheme, right? It all looks blended together. It's easy for me. Like if you're looking at my grid, you can easily find what you're looking for. There are covers to show exactly what the content is versus flipping through videos to try to find the gold nuggets. So I hope that answers your question. But so those are two different campaigns and two different ways of doing things, and how you can kind of leverage your business from different angles on two different platforms.
Definitely. So you have been mentioning about TikTok and the way it has given you good result. So, and we see that most of the common use are involved into TikTok, and also on the different short videos. We have every social media platform have entered into the short video segment, whether it might be Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So now let's say for brands, especially who are into the B2C brand. Can you just guide us on what are the best strategies on how they can incorporate these short videos, or we can see reels, to improve their brand visibility?
Sure. So the number one thing that helped me with my business is actually injecting myself in my brand. So for a really long time, right, I had a logo as my picture. I kind of didn't really show my face. Like there really wasn't an association with me, right, Gabby, who I am, with my brand. So it just looked like a brand. And that was great, but it also right isn't, because there's no way for anyone to connect with me in any way, shape, or form. They can't say, oh, this person gets me, she looks like me, she sounds like me, or from the same background, which was actually hindering the performance of my business more so than I thought. And so once I started injecting myself in these short videos or reels or whatever it is, that's when things started to really, really start expanding, and people were engaging with me more organically than prior. So when it comes to, let's say, TikTok, one of the best strategies for me was actually every time that I do a video, there are 3 ways that I break up the video. So the very first, like literally 2 seconds, right? You gotta capture the audience. You want to make a hook. So you want to, like, for example, like my big thing is I quit corporates. Everyone wants to quit their 9 to 5. They want to do their own jam. So almost always, whenever I do a video, right in the beginning, I say something that has to do with that, or does something that would entice someone to, like, oh my God, I need to learn more, right? That hook. Then the meat and potatoes, the bulk of the rest of your video is going to be a story. You want to story tell. And why the podcast really has helped me is because it helps me to elaborate what I'm saying better, become a better storyteller by practice. And so for anyone who's listening, if you want to get better at storytelling without like maybe doing the TikToks right away, I highly recommend using matchmaker.fm to be a guest on other people's shows, so that you can find, ways of expressing yourself in your story much clearer, quicker, and easier. But so again, going back to the TikTok post, so, first couple of seconds is your hook. The second part, which is the bulk of it, is your story. And the third part, which is a call to action, which could be just like, hey, leave a comment if you want to hear more about this, or like, reach out to me if you're interested in getting a session for free. See the link in my bio if you want to, download my free ebook or get involved with X thing. Like follow me to learn more tips or tricks or whatever it is. So that's kind of like how I frame all my videos, is based on those 3 things. Whereas for Reels, which is a completely different strategy, it's more for entertainment, right? It's they're shorter videos. You use a lot of like trending sounds to really, try to create buzz around it. And that's been working for me. Now, I will say Instagram is a lot slower, but the strategy is that I look for videos. So let's say you find a sound that you like. You can look at the top videos, like the first couple of ones from using that same audio, click on every single one and see what made them work or what didn't. Like look at the views, look at the likes, which ones did really, really well. Try to find out why, right? Be a detective and kind of pick out what are the reasons they're doing well. Did they do lip syncing properly? Is their lighting good? Do they feel like they're fully expressed? Like, is the music on point? Like, does it make sense? Is it applying to the collective? Does it apply to everyone? And then also look at the ones that maybe didn't do well, like they only had a couple views or no likes, and what the issues with that. And then once you do that comparative, you can kind of go back and make your own reel. And then again, as an experimenter, put it in place, see if it works. And if it doesn't, then go back to the drawing board and try it again.
Very insightful information you have gave about incorporating this short video strategy. At the initial, you were telling about some of your campaign that went viral and that gave a good result to you and also to your client. So can you share some small case studies where you helped brand improve their social media engagement, and the campaign went a kind of to the next level where it brought a result in terms of whether it might be in terms of engagement, whether it might be in terms of responses?
Yeah, so what I've been finding is, and it kind of goes back to what I said before about being, operating as a brand versus like injecting yourself in the brand and you being in the face of the brand, is that, people, especially nowadays with everything going on and just how business is changing, is that people really like vulnerability. They like when people are open and honest. They like when they can trust you. And I actually, there's someone, I think his name is Sunil Godson. he actually did a study on intuitive branding, and as per this study, it's scientifically proven, like all of that stuff. Someone can establish trust with you and know if they're going to buy from you or like you within 33 seconds. Something crazy like that. It's like it's really, really quickly that people can pick up on whether they like you or not. And so that comes in the way of you being vulnerable, maybe you doing things on the fly, anything like that. So for me, the things that went viral were actually those moments where I was sharing openly about the things that were going on, the struggles I had, some of the downloads that I was, having in terms of like what I think is going on, what I think I could do, like openly sharing those things and kind of giving people a behind the scenes look has completely blown up my business, because not only am I showing them how much of a human I am, but I'm also giving them insight and inspiration into what could be, right? Because for a lot of people, maybe the people around them they don't understand where they're going, where they're headed, or what they're about. So to show them kind of what I'm doing inspired them. So yeah, I would say if you're not seeing engagement with anything that you're doing, question your vulnerability, question if you're being authentic, because authenticity always sells, always. And in the beginning, there are going to be a ton of people who are like, I don't like this, I'm going to unfollow you, this doesn't vibe with me. And that's just because they're not your people, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is a huge movement right now with what they call micro-influencers, where you don't need to have 120 million people following you. Like, that's great and all, but really, again, it comes to engagement. If you have 8,000 followers and every time you post a photo, you get 20 likes, that is a terrible engagement rating. You're much better having under 1,000 followers, really hitting the nail on the head, showing yourself, and having 300 people who are your super fans who will die, I don't want to say die for you, but like vet for you, say how amazing you are, and be constant recurring, customers and supporters. Like, to me, that's more valuable than being exposed to the whole world.
This was very informative. The case study, also your advice on the best practices one should go with. During our conversation, you have given us a good advices on how one should go for planning their social media. Any last piece of advice that you want to share with digital marketers on what their focus should be?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that comes up to me when I talk with people, actually there are two things. Number one, support. Try to find as many like-minded people as you can earlier in the process, because the hardest thing for people who are working on their brands is that they don't have people in their circle, whether it's in person or online, who can really help, just be their cheerleader or provide you insight. So whether it comes in the form of a free connection or you need to pay to be an mastermind, I highly recommend you find and seek out support and people to bounce ideas off of, and mentors and all of that. The second thing is, don't be afraid. And I know, right, everyone says, oh, you got to get over the fear and all of that, but there are two options you could choose. Either way is going to be fearful. You can be in fear and not post anything, or you can be in fear and post something. And from what I've seen, I actually respect and like the people who post, who are actively putting themselves out there, who are trying, than the people who don't post and nothing happens. Because maybe in the beginning it's really scary and it's vulnerable that you're posting and putting yourself out there, but 3 months from now, someone who maybe originally didn't like you because you're doing that now has a respect for you and actually likes you and is now stalking and following you because you're showing up every single day, and that's something that they wish they had the courage to do. So when it comes to the two, you have two choices whether to do it or not. You always want to choose to do it, because it's only on the other side where you're going to find success.
Definitely. Thank you for giving this valuable advice. The second advice, which Evan was very informative for me, was kind of experimenting. Because until you don't go for experimenting, you will not learn. And social media or the digital marketing field is something where you need to learn the best practices. There's kind of every day there's kind of new thing that is happening. So one need to be ready for experimenting, for failing, and also to learn from our failures.
Exactly.
So with this, we have come to the end of today's episode. It was great learning some of the important social media tips that can help improve the performance and engagement on social media. Thank you so much, Gabby, and looking forward to have you on our show again.
Thanks for having me.